It's time for another video of putting it all together. In today's video, we are going to do something fun. We're going to work with an image map. I've already mentioned in other videos image maps, and I've in particular mentioned the rectangle or the circle. And those are great, but the one I'm going to show you today is a lot more difficult to make, but it's a lot more of a rewarding result than a circle or a rectangle. So I've got my main page here on Arnold Historic Lighting, the index.html. And notice here at the bottom, it says, click on the chandelier to see if you can find it in the gallery. So if I go click on this chandelier, I have the gallery here and I could say, oh, there it is. But if I go back, I'm going to refresh the page so you don't see anything here. You notice that when I move my mouse over it, it goes on it really well on the edge. You can see the hand icon. See how it goes away? And then I come over here. Oh, look, well, I'm on the pipe of the chandelier hanging down. And when I go off the pipe, it goes away. This piece here, just a little bit of terminology here, this is called a dust catcher. The dust catchers didn't have a top, and so they caught dust. So they got really dirty up in there. That was the dust catcher. And even the finial down here is clickable. So this wasn't done by just saying, hey, there's an image here, and there's a chandelier on it. Let's make that clickable. Or it wasn't done by saying, here's an image, we're going to put another one on top. If anyone clicks on the top image of the chandelier, move to the page. None of that happened. It's done using the image map. So when I click on it, I want you to see, you can probably see the blue line, hopefully you can. It goes around this chandelier very, very well. Even around the dust catcher and the pipe. This line shows you the polygon image map. A polygon meaning many sides. So you can start at a particular point and you add more points and you work your way around the whole thing. You can start anywhere you like and you can work around the image. So what we're going to do is we're going to look at where I started on this. And if you see the code, this is my map right here. And in my picture above it, see how it has use map equals number sign info picture. Well, that's the name, info picture. Well, here, map name info picture. Look at these coordinates, though, for this polygon. Look at these. Look at all that. And then it tells where it goes. And it has alternate text as well. But that is a lot of coordinates. So my goal for today is to help you figure out how to take a picture like this and put a polygon around it. We're going to go over some of these coordinates so that you can see the pattern that's associated with going through these. So let's get started. First of all, we need to know where my first point is. 198 and 30. So you may look over here and you may say, well, is that here? Is it here? Is it here? Where is that first point? Since this is already written, I'm just going to change the 198 to be 0. So we'll see what happens here. It should really distinguish for us where this is. So I'll refresh it. I'll click on it. And I click back and you see it's way over here. So this shows us this is 30 pixels down because I didn't change the 30, but this is 198 right over here. So you see now I've got this whole extra spot that's going to connect to that page, which I don't want, but that showed me, okay, this is where the first point is, right here. So let's go back and let's put that back to 198, save it again, hit enter, click on it. Now I'm going to go back so I see the little outline on it. So that's this point, 198.30. So now if you notice, the chandelier looks to be, it's not really, but it looks to be a little crooked here at this shade because of the way it's kind of trying to be 3D, but it's not. It's a 2D picture. So you see it goes down a tiny bit, but it's almost flat. So you would start experimenting then. Well, actually, what I would do is I would make a triangle or a box. I'd put a point here, a point approximately over here, here, and here. And just do estimates, rough estimates with your point values. And so when you do that, you're going to have a basic box, and you're going to adjust those 4 points to be correct. The one here, the one there, one here, and one there. And it's going to be not quite a square. It's going to look more like a trapezoid, but it's going to give you the basic outline. So then what you'll do is you're going to add a bunch of points between this first point and your second point. So if you look here, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 between this point and that point. So if you look over here at my code, this is point 1, these first 2 numbers. And so we have 8 between. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Oh, wait. Oh, now I lost count. Sorry. 1, no, sorry, that's the first point. 8 between. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So this is the one here, 320 by 40. Does that make sense? Well, it should obviously be way more to the left because it's moved way over. So the 320 makes sense. And before the height was 30 and now it's 40. So that means it was 30 down to begin with. Well, it's 40 here. And that makes sense too, because it appears, and it's not really true in real life, but it appears that this gas light is lower than that one. And in fact, significantly lower, but it's really just the angle of the chandelier in the photograph. So anyway, so we would have those two. So now we're going to get those 8 points in there. So what am I going to do? As I go along, I'm going to start off by keeping one of the 2 values as I go across. So in this case, I would keep the 30 down, but I would move over to the left. And then I'm going to adjust that a little bit. And notice it will go down a tiny bit. So if I come back over here to my code, see, 245 went from 198 to 245, but then it went from 30 to 35, just a tiny, tiny bit. And so once you get that point in, it's going to look like this. It's going to go from here to there, all nice, and then it's going to shoot over to here and skip the dust catcher and the pipe. So I move it in as far as I can to the left with thinking of that line going up and not hitting the dust catcher. And then I figure out, well, where's the dust catcher? Well, it angles back a tiny bit, so I'm going to go back to the right a little bit. So a little less on my left coordinate and quite a bit less on my upper coordinate, maybe like half or so. So that would be the third point. So the third point, see, I'm really close. 18 and 18 is 36. It went from 35 to 18. So I was pretty close in that estimate there. And then I went from 245 back to 240 because I angle it back just a tiny bit. I've angled it back. Now this one's pretty much perfectly straight. So I'm just going to go over a little, but I'm going to keep the height to be the same. So I was at 18. Look at that, 251, 18. It didn't go very far over either because I'm just going that half of that dust catcher over to the pipe. So now we are at here, the base of that pipe. Now I need to go straight up. Well, the top is going to be 0. So when I go straight up, notice I've kept the 251, but I've made the y coordinate be 0 because I'm at the top of the page. It works down, remember. Top is 0. So then I just still am going to have to move over a little bit, but I stay at 0. Well, by experimentation, I found that that was 4 pixels. 255 versus 251, but I kept my 0. And then I need to go straight down, don't I? Straight down again. Well, I'm going to use the coordinate I already had. I'm going to use that knowledge. So I'm going to keep 255, but I'm going to go back to 18, which is what I had back here when I was ready to go up. So I came back to that 18. So now I'm at the bottom of the pipe. Well, not the bottom of the pipe, to where the dust catcher is. The pipe goes down inside the dust catcher a little bit, but I'm to that dust catcher. So now I need to keep the height again, the 18, because it's pretty straight, and move over a little. So I went 255 to 265. So that's to right here. So now we're at 265. So we're at this point. So now I need to go further down. So that means increase my y value, but I'm also going to decrease my left value because I'm moving back a little bit because of the dust catcher being kind of the shape of a triangle in a 2D representation, at least, kind of a cone in a 3D representation. But I'm going to move back a little bit. So I'm going to go to 255, which moves it back over, and I'm going to drop to 40. So that is going to give me to this point here. All right, so now I need to move over, but I can keep about the same height. So I'll stay around 40. So in fact, I stayed exactly 40, 320 to 40. So that now takes us to right here, to the edge of this, to this shade. And that was that original second point that we were going to have when we started out with the trapezoid, just the basic 4 points. So we've gotten to that point now. Now, some of you may wonder why I didn't come in here on this part. And the reason I didn't is it's hard to see in this picture, but there's actually pieces of the chandelier. This arm drops down. There's another electric arm back there. You can see the shade a little bit. There's stuff here. And if I didn't have the dark curtain in the background, you would be able to see it. But since I do have that dark curtain, unless you really zoom in on the picture, you don't see it. But it is technically there. So that's why I chose to go ahead and keep this just a straight line here down to this one. So with that said, I'm going to go from that one down to here. So I'm going to make a big increase in the y because I'm dropping a lot, but I'm going to go back some on the x as well. So let's take a look. 320 to 285, but 40 goes all the way to 90. And that gets us to this point here. So now what do we do? Well, if you notice here, it's hard to see in this diagram, but I move over here, then I move up, over, down, over, up. And then I've got that stuff in the chandelier again that's hard to see. So I keep it there, move down here, over there, and up one more time. So let's continue. So I'm to here right now. So I'm just going to move over a tiny bit to the left. So that means take a little bit off X, but I should be keeping Y the same or very, very close. So I did, as you can see here. I kept the 90, but I went from 285 to 267. Okay, so now I need to come up a little bit. And it looks like I kept it pretty straight. It's hard to tell there for sure, but I need to come up. And I didn't quite. 266, I changed it by 1 pixel, but from 90 to 78. So I moved up there. And then you notice the next one has the same height, but it's just a little bit to the left. So it just moves over a tiny bit. And that's this one here, 256, 78. So it stayed that same height. I just moved over by 10 pixels. But now I need to come down. So I stay where I am there, and I work my way down for the finial. So the left stays, and the Y gets more. So the left was 256, so it still is. Down goes from 78 to 98. Hopefully you're seeing this pattern that for the most part, I'm only changing one coordinate at a time per point. I have to fiddle a little bit when I have angled lines, but for the most part, I'm able to do this. So now I'm going to go straight over again for the finial, for the width of the finial. So notice I keep the 98 on the next one, but I go from 256 to 248. So now I'm here. I'm on this side of the finial. I go up a little ways, not very far, and it looks like I angled it a tiny, tiny bit. So let's see here. So actually I did, let's see here. 240, no, I didn't. I went from 248 to 248. I stayed with the left. It was hard to see if I did that or not. I couldn't remember. But then I did change the height from 98 to 85. So that takes me up the side of the finial right here. Now I'm going to need to change both because I've got an angle line here. I'm going to significantly change the left and only change the height or the top a little bit. So I'm going to significantly change the left. So from 248 to 225. And then I'm going to increase, because I'm going to go down, the height from 85 to 90. So now I'm at the 225, 90 for this. I went down a tiny bit, but back over to the left a lot. Now I'm kind of doing them both almost the same here. I'm going up some and I'm going over to the right. So both are going to lose here. So 225 goes to 206, 90 goes to 80. So that is this one right here. And now I go the other direction again. So now I'm still decreasing on the Y, going back up, but I am moving over to have a higher left. So I'm moving over to the left. So I go from 206 to 218, but from 80, I drop to 68 because I'm moving up, moved up. And that is my last coordinate. Now, some people would say, well, what about going back to the first coordinate, which was this 198.30? Well, the way this works is it will connect your last coordinate. It'll automatically draw it back to the first coordinate. So that's how I get my last line from there to there. So we just traced through this entire polygon. This one's rather complex. It took a while, but you know what? The results are really good because people are going to look and say, wow, look at how accurate this is. And I could have even spent more time and made more accurate. You see, if I zoom in here, I mean, I could have moved this over like that and then came along this line here and then came down. I could have cut a little bit out right there, a little bit here. I think there's a gas valve right there. Yep, there is. So I could have taken that little tiny bit out there. I could have gone up in here and taken a little bit out. I could have taken this tiny bit out here. I could have taken this tiny bit out and followed this and this one here. And then definitely I could have come in further here and come around. I mean, I could have easily added another 10 coordinates in here to make it even better. But you know, it comes to a point where it's like a bell curve, where the benefits are not going to be worth it. You can totally get to that point where you get it to the perfection, and then it's not noticeable to the average user, but yet you spend a lot of time. So I'll give you an example too. Like my wife is a musician, and she has several instruments that she can take to events that she does. She's a professional musician. And when she used to like to take her best instrument, but that puts a lot of wear and tear on the instrument. And people were talking to her and said, you know, really, other professionals were talking to her and said, why are you doing that? She said, well, I want to give my best for the performances and for my clients and who I play for. And they said, but it sounds basically the same. Yeah. Well, you know what? They're going to be impressed. There's not going to be any difference in the impressed level of which instrument they see, because they don't know about that. They don't know that this instrument is a higher quality than this instrument unless you can literally tell a difference in the sound, which you really can't. So why not have the one for work, which is what most of them do? They have one for work. And so that's what she has done now. But that was hard for her to understand, that, you know what, no one else is going to notice because they don't know it like you know it. You're the professional, you know it. It's the same idea here. I could spend another hour getting this just perfect and everything, but is anybody going to know or appreciate the difference between what it is right now and what it would be if I spent another hour on it? Very unlikely, extremely unlikely. Now, of course, you don't want to make it a box. Everybody's going to notice that. They're going to say, well, I'm not clicking on the chandelier, and look, I can click over here and it works. So no, you don't want that. But you want it to look professional, but you don't want to go overkill with it. One more example, and this one's about me. I started making some stained glass windows a while back. I made 4 total. And I took a class at a glass shop in Fresno, and they couldn't believe the pattern that I sketched out that I wanted to do. And they said, well, this isn't a beginner's window. And I said, well, I still want to do it. So they said, you're going to have lots of homework. You can't just do it at the class that you're going to take. And so I took a class there, but I had hours every week that I worked on it. Everybody else just worked while they were there, but I took it home and worked on it. And I got one of the windows done for the class, and I proceeded to do the other 3 windows. And they were very impressed with what I did, and they said I was actually pretty talented in it. But they said I had a problem. And they said that, you know, you really can do it well, and you've caught on to it very fast, but you're too perfect with it. You take too long to where you're not profitable. If you wanted to do this for, now doing it for a hobby, which is what I was doing it for anyway, they're like, that's fine. But if you were going to go into this, we would want you to speed up, and basically what they said is cut some corners. Don't do it quite as well, because nobody but you is going to notice that small imperfection that you spent 30 minutes trying to fix. So there is a balance. You definitely want it to look good and to be good, but there's a point where you can just take it too far to where it's just going to become a nightmare for you to finish. So that was hard for me because I am kind of a perfectionist with those types of things. So, but anyway, it is what it is. I built my 4 windows. I was very happy with them. And I moved on. I just didn't do any more, but I just wanted to do those 4 windows for my house. But anyway, so I hope this was helpful to you. I hope you see what you can do with the Polygon image map. I mean, it's incredible. It's neat. Just don't go overboard. That's my only warning. Or you'll spend too much time on it and something else will lose out in your site. I'll see you in the next video.